In your packet, I shared with you that we received a 5-year cohort graduation rate. Last fall, I shared with you that our graduation rate for last year was 86.9% of our students in a cohort when they started in 9th grade and they finished in 12th grade together. And a few years ago, we were in the 70s. So when we made it to 86, almost 87, we were in ecstasy, but this is the average over the past 5 years. And for all students, it's 83.4. And we're hoping that it'll even be higher for this year than it was for last. You can see the breakdown of male, female, what they consider subgroups, free and reduced lunch, English language learners, students with special needs, and then also by nationality or race. But this was from the state, so it is quite official, and I think we're moving in the right direction, and we'll up. Any questions?
Just, if I'm, let's say I'm just a junior at Torrington High School, and we move, am I considered not in that graduation rate?
They would have to be, wherever they move to, they would be, in that group, and no, they probably wouldn't be included, because it has to be the 4 years.
Can
If you came in as a junior.
The students that don't graduate dropped out of school, or no? Other things might have happened.
I'm not sure if I understand your question.
His question is, and I believe this came up in past years, if a student leaves Torrington High School, sophomore, junior, and they don't notify us of where they're going, or they go to a state that doesn't report back to Connecticut, are they counted as a dropout?
If parents have not requested transcripts to be filed and everything, yes.
Is that your question?
So what was the graduation rate?
For this year, for this 83.6, no, 83.4. That's, sorry, yes, that's a 5-year average, and that percentage from 2013 was 86.9.
But you can't assume that 16% drop out from that.
No.
That's what my point. It doesn't mean we have a 16% dropout rate.
What it means is that they actually make it through in 4 years.
Okay.
Are there other students who, may need the summer to make it up, or a postgraduate year? Yes.
Okay.
So actually, that number for actually graduate, this is ones who make it in 4.
Thank you. Even Start program.
And I'd like to bring up Donna Labby, Paula Gajewski, and Michelle Anderson. And these are the 3 ladies who are behind everything that's happening for us in early childhood in Torrington.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving this opportunity to us to speak to you tonight. My name is Paula Gajewski, and I work for the Torrington Public Schools. My official title is Early Childhood Literacy Specialist. I am also a coordinator for the Community Family Literacy Center, which is located at Forbes School in Torrington in the library media. One of my most important parts of my job is to help link the early childhood families to the public schools. So I work district-wide. I work with preschools, and I work with families in the district and helping them transition their children from preschool into the kindergarten. The Community Family Literacy Center serves all of Torrington, all the public, and we offer free programming for families, and it is early childhood focused programs, but early childhood really means from birth all the way through 8 years old. So I have a lot of information to talk about with you about the Community Family Literacy Center, but instead of talking about it, I put together a video that I will show you in just a minute so you can see some of the things that we're doing here in Torrington for families. Just a quick little tidbit, the CFLC, that's the acronym, the Community Family Literacy Center, opened October 2013, so we've been open for about a year and a half. We started with 5 families, and since then we have grown to about 160 families that we are now serving here in Torrington, and that is including the Even Start program and the FRC program. So we do work together in the community. So I would like to show you the video now. So let's see if I can get this to work. I was told this is all ready to go. So we do work, the Community Family Literacy Center does work with the Family Resource Center in the Torrington Library, and we also work with families from all over Torrington. That's my job, is to really try to get everybody involved with early childhood. Okay, Jamie? Mouse. Just move your mouse. lot with the families here in Torrington, and it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to work with all the families and the preschools and the early childhood educators here in Torrington. So I'll pass it over to Donna. She'll say a quick word.
Are we gonna show another video?
No.
You want me to move that?
Okay. I'll move.
I can hide behind
kind of
it.
like it.
Good evening, everyone. Michelle Anderson, the coordinator at the Family Resource Center at Vogel Wetmore School. We have been around, for, I'm thinking it's a little over 15 years. I've been there for about 10 of it and enjoying every moment.
No, that's right, you have a good, strong voice.
Thanks. And we are just very grateful. Our grant comes from the State Department of Education, and then it goes to Education Connection. And that's been a wonderful resource to be part of that organization. But the commitment on Torrington Public Schools' behalf has been fabulous for our program. We have been at Vogel for the whole entire duration of our program. And when I talk to my colleagues around the state, and there's about 67 of us now, that is definitely not the case. So Torrington has treated us well. A lot of FRCs have had to move schools, but we've been grounded within our school. We appreciate being there. We've had great staff and leadership support there, great support from superintendents in the past. Cheryl's vision of early childhood has really helped us grow, and that led us to the collaborations we have with Paula at our Community Family Literacy Center. We have 7 mandated components, and instead of going through all of them, because I know our time is limited up here, I gave you green folders that explain a lot of our programming, because we honestly work from birth to grandparents. This Saturday I'm doing a grandparent support group, so we really touch a lot of folks at our FRC. We're up to serving about 250 families right now. We see about 100 infants and toddlers throughout the week in our early childhood playgroup program. We also offer a home visiting component for those families that wish to take part. A lot of I'm proud to say that they probably do not remember me, but I knew about 3 of those music and chorus students. They came to our playgroup and they were probably be embarrassed, but they were about 3 coming to our playgroup. So, you know, I'm starting to see some now that are in high school and seeing the impact, and it's great to see them doing great things in the district. And one of our components that we've really worked with Paula on and Donna on is our adult ed component, which that is the pictures of our families going out at night, our family literacy class, to and work with the Even Start families through the tech collaboration. So we're very proud that we are able to offer those programs, and that we have another vehicle to collaborate with. So we're proud of that. Like I said, we do a lot, so I gave you all the brochures, so you have them, and we're just thrilled that the Torrington Public Schools sees us as an integral role in their early childhood mission, and Donna Labby and I collaborate on many initiatives. We are there. Our doors are open for any family. We do have an obligation to the families at Vogel for our grant that's written in legislation that we need to do our best faith-based effort to honor those families first, but we open it up to other families. So thank you for allowing us to be in your buildings for almost 15 years.
Good evening, I'm Donna Labby, and I'm here, I have multiple capacities in the Torrington Public Schools and the greater community. The one that I'm here representing tonight is Even Start Director and the Early Childhood Education Coordinator for Torrington Early Childhood Collaborative, as well as the Torrington Public Schools. So thank you for giving us this time, and I will be brief. I did want to let you know that there is a nicely colored piece of paper that is being handed out, and this is a compilation of over a decade of work. The Torrington Early Childhood Collaborative has 60 members on it, and they're all working for the ultimate result statement that all of Torrington's children from birth through age 8 are healthy and successful learners. And we really focus on age 8 and reading, because we do know the outcomes for graduation are increased when a child is reading by age 8. So when you see this piece of paper, we really broke it down into age group, and it's what we call a continuum of care. And all the strategies are focused on helping the parent and the child. And it's a comprehensive plan, so it looks at the health of the child as well. So I just wanted to let you know that this great work has been going on and is continuing to go on, and I'm honored to be working with these wonderful colleagues who are actually implementing the strategies. A lot of the things you saw in the video, it's not just a random shot in the dark. These are things that are scientifically based, they're researched, and we also measure everything we do. We follow a outline that's called results-based accountability, and it basically asks the question, how well are we doing, and is anybody better off? So we have lots of data. We won't share that with you right now, but I did want to let you know that this is based in data. I did want to share one other fun program that Torrington is famous for, and it's the Birth to Graduation program. And we partnered with the pediatricians who will hand out these bags upon the birth of a newborn to families. And in it is a resource guide that has all the resources in the community that families will need. We always heard we needed a community center. We couldn't build a community center, so we brought all the resources to one place. So sort of a virtual support for new parents. It also has a little bib that says future graduates of Torrington High School. So the expectation is there and it's set. What we have done is partnered with Brooker as well and Charlotte Hungerford Hospital. And this whole program is based on a one-year community birthday party, so parents are invited in. And on their second year, they're invited to a dental screening, because we know that dental caries can really impact attendance down the road. So we wanted to sort of emphasize how important that is. And at their third birthday, they're invited to go to the library. And then, of course, their fourth birthday is the kindergarten readiness fair. So there's, as you can see, a continuum of ways to interact with parents and engage them in meaningful ways. And I'll just close with 2 data points. These collective programs are probably, I'm going to give you the latest figure, $640,000 are brought into the community through public and private funding. And as far as the Even Start program, you'll have in your packets, it's a survey that was done by UConn, and it was grant funded by Newman's Own. And if you look at the last page, I won't go through the whole thing, but if you look at the last page, you'll see that these 2-generation programs really do make a big impact. And you'll see that there's a 63% increase in home ownership for graduates of this program, 29% decrease in housing rental assistance, 81% increase in voting, 23% increase in public library use, and a 29% increase in community activity participation. So these 2-generation programs are really making a huge impact. And Torrington is being held up in the nation as doing a lead experience with these programs and interacting with the families. And they are on the Aspen Institute website as a promising program, along with only 2 other outreach programs in Connecticut. So I just wanted to let you know the good news, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Smart update on Smarter Balanced Assessment.
They're still standing after how many weeks into test bid?
Yeah, about a month in, we're doing okay. I just want to say, it warms my heart to see these students here this evening, because they are the real-life application and celebration of the learning that we are working on every single day, whether you're talking about pre-K or kindergarten or elementary students to our high school students in the musical program. In each one of the programs that we're talking about tonight, CFLC, FRC, all the acronyms that go on, plus all of our music awards come because we are involved as a community. Parents are involved, students are involved, staff members, all of you making these decisions that are happening, that are pivotal in students' lives. So thank you. I think that's a great way to frame the roller coaster and give us some grounding as we talk about some of the things that have been kind of crazy for us this year. We're back again doing our presentations. We've been here, I think this is our third one, talking about teacher evaluation, talking about Common Core, and now we're coming to talk about Smarter Balance Assessment, which has been quite a roller coaster ride. But we're living through it. I'm going to get quick because I don't have the glasses on. Sorry, old lady eyes. But we started the testing, as Cheryl said, about a month ago. And several states, we're not alone, 23 states are actually doing, thank you so much, Bob, taking the Smarter Balance Assessment. Many other states are taking the PARC assessment. It's still a standardized test. Basically, the idea ultimately is to have individualized testing for the students, to have CAT or computerized adaptive test. And so each question is set to challenge the student at their level. That's not happening this year. We're doing a field test. So just so that you know, all of the students who are being tested on random questions. Some of them are from their grade, some of them are from the grade above, some of them are from the grade below. Some of them are hard, some of them are medium level, some of them are easy. So there can be a frustration level for our students because basically they're testing the questions. They're not testing their ability to answer the questions at this point. Because what they want to do is create the test. So this is the pilot year, if you will. So basically the Commissioner Pryor, told us it's basically a low stakes, low stress, so don't worry. So we tried not to worry, but we knew the test was coming. We really, unfortunately, did not receive a lot of information. No one across the nation did. It wasn't exclusive to Connecticut. But as you can see from this timeline, really, we did not even have an opportunity to go to a training until the end of February, February 24th. And so we were testing, as first we knew, March 18th. So we were becoming a little nervous. I know we weren't supposed to get stressed, but we were. And we were trying to keep people calm too, because teachers had never been trained in actually administering this test. So it left us a very small window of time. So you've got the time frame in front of you. The other additional notes are the test was supposed to start on March 18th. The Friday before the test was supposed to start, they said, let's put on the brakes, we're doing a quality control, we're starting March 25th. So we're like, okay, we're really ready now, we're doubly ready. So we did start on March 25th. We thought the test would crash. Our technology is excellent. Thank you so much for funding our technology. It made a huge difference. We were able to have computers, laptops, Chromebooks at each one of the sites, and we are able to do test sessions, and many thanks to technology team because they got everything loaded and downloaded and accommodations, all that good stuff. So we were ready for the test. That worked out, nothing crashed in that first week. In fact, really nothing has crashed. We've had some difficulties in terms of the accommodations, particularly for our ELL students and our special ed students. But for the most part, we're getting through. I talk to the state daily. I talk to Smarter Balance daily. And we're working through the glitches. So, bottom line is the results going to be in the paper? Is it going to be reportable? The main goal for this year is to be at 95%, and we're very fortunate in the district. We have very few opting out parents or families. We will definitely hit that participation rate, which is 95%. This will be posted in the newspaper. We didn't think any scores would be posted in the newspaper. We have a little bit of apprehension about that because we have no idea how they will report based on what I've just told you, that it's totally randomized test. not based on any individual ability at all. However, Commissioner Pryor did tell us that something will probably be posted in the paper. So we will be back talking with you about this again to clarify what you're going to be seeing in the newspaper, because we have no idea what that's going to be. And so very lastly, in terms of what is reportable, this year we will have no school performance index and no district performance index, which is an SPI and a DUPI. Those will get recorded the following year once we have a valid test, which they are feeling like we're going live next year. So we'll keep you posted on that piece. As far as what the test actually looks like, I'm going to turn it over to Patty so she can tell you a little bit about the changes, especially from CMT.
CMT and CAPT were paper pencil tests, which basically limited the types of questions that students were asked. These are questions that all of us would have been familiar with in school, multiple choice type questions, fill in the blank type questions. Moving the format of the test to the computer-based system, there are two different basic types. There are either selected response, where you choose a correct answer, or a constructed response, where you put together an answer to the question yourself. Now, in the selected response, there are several different types, where you would have multiple choice with one right answer, multiple choice with several that are right, two-part multiple choice, where there's a question that asks, here's question 4, part A, pick one of these, and then part B, pick one of these. And the scoring for that would be that the student would have to get part A and part B right to get question number 4 right completely. There would be fill-in tables where students would be dragging and dropping things into tables, maybe asking for pros and cons, and they would be pulling things in. Putting text or sometimes pictures or graphics into different orders. Graphing, where students actually have to click to make dots on a graph to actually drag and draw lines to make graphs to show that. Typing in numbers, selecting numbers to fill in from drop-downs. Writing short answers themselves or writing long answers. So there's a lot of different variations in the kinds of questions that are being asked of the students. On the practice test that some of us looked at earlier this year, there was one question that particularly stuck in my mind, was about doubling a recipe for soup. And the students had to take basically pictures of carrots and potatoes and drag in the right number of carrots into the pot and drag in the right number of potatoes into the pot that you would have to use for that recipe. So these are very complicated, different kinds of questions that we would be, than what we would be used to seeing on these kinds of tests. Computer adaptive, we're looking at the full range of what's in the standards, measuring current growth and achievement across time and variety of response types, but again, it's not adaptive this year. We're basically just testing a bunch of questions. And then there are some performance tests that Kathy's going to get into in a little bit in more detail that require a little bit more thinking on the part of the student. So you've got the computer-based part of it, which is sort of static. You're looking at it, you're answering it as it goes, and then there's a performance task type test questions that are that come up later on in the testing window. Here's the window that was originally set up, and as Sue had said, March 18th was the day we were supposed to start. They pushed that back by a week. The windows we set up were to sort of accommodate the wireless access, computer access, making sure that we were staggered. We started with our oldest students in each building, the middle school and the elementary schools. Let the oldest ones start first so that by the time we got to the younger ones, any of the glitches that we were seeing, we would at least know how to address those glitches. In high school, we made sure that we set those testing times after some of the AP exams, because the high school students already, grade 11, have a lot going on, so we made sure to arrange things around everybody's schedule, what would make sense for students taking the test. Testing times, the actual time in the test, between literacy, which was the English language arts part, and the math. We're looking at an average about 4 hours for the literacy test, maybe 4.5 for 11th grade, 3.5 hours, 4 hours for math. Combined testing, we're looking at anywhere from 7 to 8 hours of actual test time. And what we're seeing in the buildings going on is this is about what's happening. We don't have a lot of students that are pushing beyond this. We've got some students that are finishing earlier with certain types of tests. But I think as the test sort of irons itself out and as the questions become a little bit more sophisticated and matched to student ability, you're going to see these times probably get honed down a little bit, shrink a little bit, and the Smarter Balance Consortium is gonna have a better idea of how much time is required. And the irony of it is, and there's a nice disclaimer on the bottom, and this is actually their slide, these are sort of approximate times, but the tests are not timed. Back in the day of CMT and CAPT, we used to have a 60-minute test. So you would start at 8:10, you would be done at 9:10, it was over. Even though it says now you've got, say, on the computer, you've got 2 hours of time, that doesn't mean that the kid's gonna use the 2 hours, that doesn't mean that it has to take 2 hours, it might be 90 minutes, it might be 2.5 hours. So there's a lot of, it is but it isn't this year. It's computer adaptive, but it's not this year. It's an untimed test, but here are some testing times for you to think about. So there's a lot of that going on this year. Now Kathy's gonna talk about the performance tasks that are the other piece of the test.
Okay. The performance tasks are in math, and I think we need to stop calling it English language arts and refer to it as literacy. One of the things that you see in the packet that Deb is passing out is an actual performance task for the literacy and one for math. The literacy is on the top, and so I'll wait till everybody gets it, and I want to show you how it's different from CMTs and CAP. One of the differences, well, I can talk about, on CMTs, when you were doing a writing prompt, you got the prompt and that was it. There was no material that you read to draw evidence from. And so that will certainly be different. When the kids get to the Smarter Balance test in grade 11, these are kids that have taken CAP. They were used to last year reading 2 different articles and then drawing evidence from it. One of the biggest changes on the performance task is that there is a range of materials that students will have to view. One of the things that they did step back from on the performance task was originally they were going to embed video clips that students would have to play and draw evidence from. Unfortunately, their reach exceeded their grasp, and it wasn't something that they could accomplish this year. That will be coming down. So it does require visual literacy in ways that we haven't necessarily dealt with. In the packet, the first one that you see is actually the literacy. This is what 6th graders would have done on CMT. This is it. This is the packet that they do for the performance task. So there's a 20-minute classroom activity. This is true for literacy as well as for math. There's a 20-minute classroom activity that has to be done within 3 days of the actual performance task. It doesn't teach content as much as it does set context. I'm thinking of the infamous wind turbine prompt that kids had to do for CAPT. A lot of students thought they were talking about windmills, as in the Dutch windmills, and not the wind turbine. Students didn't understand that. They'd never seen a wind turbine, so they weren't familiar with that. One of the things that Smarter Balance has done is they want to make sure that that playing field is level. And so they will talk about vocabulary, just so that students have an understanding of exactly what they mean, so we don't have a repeat of the wind turbine fiasco. So you have that for both the literacy and for the math. You then have the task specifications, and you can see all of the materials that they would have to read, including the prompt itself, for them to accomplish answering a simple question such as, should we start a garden in the school? The test is actually broken up to one part where the kids would actually do all of the research, take their notes, answer 3 questions that will sort of help them to shape their thinking. Then the second portion is the actual writing of what they call a lengthy response. We would know it as an essay. And so that is, I thought this was probably the best way to really show you that difference. The math has never really had a performance task either on CMT or on CAPT. And so this is dramatically different for our students. It's not a matter anymore of just knowing the formulas as much as it is about being able to take those formulas and apply them in a totally new situation. And so the example here is the same thing. There will be a classroom activity that teachers will have to do with students. The activity is scripted, very similar to what CAPT and what CMT were with scripts, so that teachers every student's hearing the same thing. I happened to be observing a math class, when they were prepping 7th graders, and they did a donut activity, and it had them think in terms of what kind of containers do donuts go in, what kinds of donuts, what are the shapes, just to get them thinking in terms of that. I believe the performance task was they actually had to design a container that would allow them to hold X amount of donuts of X amount of various shapes. So it really is stretching our kids and getting to those critical thinking skills that the CMT and the CAP didn't. Anything else from that? And I think that's it. But I thought that this would probably be the best way to actually illustrate to you that the change. From what we're hearing, the students are going great guns with this. And the places that they aren't, the nice thing is that because this doesn't count, it's giving us some live data for what we need to do next year to make sure that kids understand what we're doing. The curriculum work that we've been building on actually has performance tasks like this built in at the end of each trimester at the middle school. So our kids will rock this test silly next year. Thank you.
Yes, Paul.
I have this, as someone who used to work with districts on CMT tests,
Yeah.
I'm so glad to see the writing prompt change to that performance test.
Absolutely.
And I can see how that's going to drive instruction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, getting kids to deal with gathering evidence and doing a lot of it. Right? So I think it's really a positive step.
Probably brings it closer, Paul, to what CAP did. When Connecticut started with CAP, we were hoping that there would be an alignment of those two tests. For those of you that don't, CMT does not require that the students read anything for evidence. So a lot of times they were told, make it up. And so they did. And then they got to high school and they said, okay, I have this great strategy. I make stuff up. And the teachers are like, no, 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 you can't do this. You have to read the articles.
And then they got graded down.
And then they got, exactly. And so this is a way to sort of make sure that there is this alignment. We also need to keep in mind that the gentleman that was one of the major architects for the Common Core is now the president of College Board and has already said that the SAT will be undergoing a drastic shift, including the essay, that will start in spring of 2016 and will mirror very much the performance task. So all of a sudden, we're starting to see that there will be this through line all the way
I
across.
also see it as something students will enjoy doing.
I think so.
And not see it as just.
I think so. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, no, you're not getting out that easy. Make yourself comfortable.
Okay.
Will the students of the future actually have to know anything, actually have any knowledge of memory,
Do you
of
mean
facts,
concepts and
of
skills?
history? I mean, besides the fact that it's all performance-based, it's
Oh, no,
almost...
no, oh, no, when we say performance, we're talking about they're going to have to write, they're going to have to do argumentative writing, they're going to have to be solidly based in evidence based on what they've read, so.
Yeah, but, I mean, what they read as far as that test. But you said before, the students will be utilizing their evaluative capabilities. They're not going to memorize any formulas for math like they used to, like we used to have to do. So students aren't going to, in the future, actually retain anything permanently. They're not going to retain formulas for geometry or calculus. They're not going to retain any history that they'll actually...
But they'll have to.
They have to.
I mean, one of the nice things about Common Core, if you really look at Common Core and you listen to David Coleman, he is by his own admission a classicist. So what he's going back to is a very, very traditional kind of curriculum where they are gathering background knowledge. This is not just, it's here. So he's using historical documents in English. Much to the chagrin of a lot of English teachers is that we will be doing a lot of primary source looking at documents to gather background evidence. It's one of the reasons informational texts are coming into things like English and all, is using those texts to build knowledge. So actually, I think it's probably the reverse of that.
And
Much more so than
It's
it has been.
actually assumed that you have that foundation. Common Core is like that too, where you have that foundation. You have done the memorization so that then you can apply it and you can show that application on the test. So you have to have that background in order to be able to answer the questions. In terms of the English language arts, they will have the evidence there and they can pull from it, extrapolate it, and put it into an essay, yes. They don't have to memorize the dates or the history, that kind of thing. But in terms of the mathematics, they have to have those building blocks in order to answer those questions. Not necessarily in the performance task, because that's problem solving, but there is a whole component of calculation, pulling things apart, using your mathematical concepts in order to get the correct answer.
And also, English language arts is not a content test.
It is a literacy more
Of a
than.
student's ability to read and write, so it's not a test of their content knowledge.
Right.
It's not like a history test or a,
Science
you
even.
know, can I read a piece of material, form an opinion, use evidence from that to actually write something that you can understand.
Though I do think it presupposes that there is a solid common background knowledge base there to be able to draw logical argument from what you're reading. So I think in a lot of ways that it's going to put demands on our students that they really haven't had in a long time.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? It appears you are free to go.
Thanks.
Oh, could I just ask one
We should have moved
No,
quicker.
it just, if you're not getting individual student results, you cannot do an item-by-item analysis.
Not this year,
Not this
not
year.
this year.
Which is, I think, a big drawback.
Yes.
I think what
It is.
happened this year with Smarter Balanced is, and they didn't initially explain this to the public, and I think that this is a big issue that all educators across the country are dealing with, is this year is a test of the test questions. Where we want to see, do these questions make sense? Do these questions work? They're vetting the questions. Next year, what's going to start to happen is it's going to be vetting student performance, because if you've got a garbage question, you're going to get a garbage answer. That's not going to tell you anything.
But I would argue with you, if you can't do an item-by-item analysis, you then cannot know what it is about that question.
Oh, exactly.
Right,
And-
right.
I don't know how
Right.
we're gonna know that.
I don't know.
And we won't even know what the, because they're pulling questions, not only are they a grade above and a grade below, they're pulling from PISA, they're pulling from TIMSS, so they're pulling from these international tests. We have no idea which of those questions are which. And so it makes looking at even just school performance, it makes it impossible to use for anything that's really valuable for us as
We could do
curriculum.
item-by-item, we could look at one item and say, our kids
Exactly.
really fell down on this.
Yeah.
What was it about this question? Is it something we're not teaching?
Mhm.
Was it the
Sure.
vocabulary of the
Mhm.
question? Was it the order of the choices?
And they might be
You
doing
can't
that
do
on they might be doing that on a more global scale, looking at all the kids and saying, well, everybody answered number 15 wrong. Well, what's wrong with number 15?
Right.
Well, number 15 is a lousy question, we're not gonna use this. So that might be what they're doing, and they're saving everybody else the trouble, so.
This was just calisthenics because there's more questions. You don't know if you want to stand.
Okay.
Apparently, we're just teasing you. This is part of the physical.
Okay. Just gonna
ask for wheelchairs. Here we go.
Roll us away. It's our 20 minutes of physical activity.
How many students opted out of taking the test?
At this point, 11.
11 from K, or,
K through 8, correct. Obviously, 11th grade still has time.
right.
We don't want that to be, but in some districts, it's been significant, so we feel very fortunate that
Yeah.
we only have a process for those 11.
Because it is aligned to the Common Core standards, is it going to be able to drive instruction in terms of, like, for an individual student, being able to see which standards they showed mastery on, which ones they didn't, and then be able to provide that to the teacher of record for the following year, whatever the content area was?
Ideally,
Right,
that
just
is
not-
that is the goal. That is the goal.
And they're saying it will be next year, but given all the questions that you have, that we have,
Okay.
that many educators have across the nation, it may not be next year, but we'll see. We won't have any results until January of 2015.
At the earliest.
At the
Correct.
earliest. Though that said, anecdotally, talking to the teachers that are proctoring and talking to kids, the kids are giving us valuable feedback as far as, well, gee, I thought this was going to be harder, and this part that I thought would be easy, and so they're giving us information that we're using to shape the curriculum we're working with.
You said earlier, you mentioned ELL and special ed.
Right.
There's, the test doesn't
What
serve,
happens
or, I mean,
is-
what's,
Sure. We still have accommodations for those students. They may have highlighting, they may have something read to them, directions read to them. But what's happening is the technology is not always working with us. Sometimes they'll be able to highlight and they'll go through the test and it'll be fine. Other times they're highlighting and it's stopping the test dead in its tracks. And then we have to have the student try again tomorrow. We have to have them forget about that test, start again totally, which is frustrating. So we just tell students, it's a field test, it's a practice, you're giving us information about the test, don't get frustrated, it's not about you, it's nothing you did, kind of thing. It's just when the accommodations piece happens. The audio was the same thing. We had some glitches there, and we just had to try a variety of different things. The unfortunate part about that is student frustration, but also the teachers are having to take an inordinate amount of time dealing with administering the test all day long. So our literacy teams, our ELL teams, our SPED teams are in computer labs or media centers working on the test administration, and unfortunately they're not servicing our students right now.
And it's not the technology in the building, it's the test
Right.
itself and the design of the test that is glitchy. It's not the computer that they're working on, it's the glitchy issues that are coming up in the test itself. So we're coming across issues that, something's supposed to happen, but it's not happening in that test. You pull out of the computer, let's say you're supposed to hear something on the test, you're not hearing it. We pull out of the test into the computer, we pull up a video off of YouTube or someplace, audio's working fine. So it's not the technology in the building, there's something hung up in the programming of that test.
but that's only happening with the ELL and the special ed students, that's not
At-
happening to the.
Well, at the beginning, we had some glitches with even students who did not have accommodations. But then we worked out those glitches, or they did on their end. So we were calling, other states were calling saying, hey, these are the things that you really need to fix. So they have over time. But then we've still had some other glitches where daily I'm having to call the state and say, look, these are the kids, this is the session number, now you have to reset this test. To the point now where they're saying, go ahead and reset your own test. And so now we'll make sure that we start those kids again tomorrow. You just need to make sure you use this access code. So we're getting there, and as Patty said, it will become much more fluid hopefully next year, and we'll get a better sense of the amount of time, and we'll be able to have access to all those areas, because it's not only our personnel, it's also those areas where we're giving up time in our media centers, our computer labs. That's just prime real estate for instruction, unfortunately.
Frustration of the students.
Right, so that's the hard part, because this lasts till June.
When the students opt out, or the parents opt out for it, do we get a reason for why they're opting out?
Yes, they have to give a reason. The state is requiring a reason. Many folks who are opting out are very well aware of their rights, and they are actually quoting their legal rights. Connecticut has not set up a legal precedent, and so basically those parents are breaking the law, if you will. It's the same thing that our parents do when they don't adhere to our truancy laws. No one hauls them off to jail. In fact, I asked the state representative from Smarter Balance, I said, so what's the legal ramifications for parents? Are they gonna get arrested? Are they gonna get a penalty? And they said, no, certainly we can't do that. And Cheryl wrote a well-informed letter that really stated, we are not going to take the taxpayers' money to fight you on this. However, you do need to know that this is a mandate from the state, and you are choosing to opt your child out. The parents have to go through a process where they write the request, or they meet with their principal first. The principal meets with them, also sends a letter home. The parent still has to acknowledge that letter. Then a letter goes home from Mrs. Clarko to also say that she is aware that the parent is requesting to opt out, and also telling them that it is a mandate, that it is a requirement, all the legal statutes, so that they understand that. And if they still choose, they can certainly write a letter to opt out. Many are opting out because of political reasons. Some are opting out because of medical reasons, but predominantly, right now, it's political.
And it's still based on federal law of no child left behind. So that's why we are mandated to, administer an assessment.
Now, do we know if the state, when they're looking at the results for a specific district, obviously if we have 11 students opting out, it's not going to be as big a deal as a district that has 100 students
Correct.
opting out. Do they factor that into the equation that of the 900 kids, 100 of them opted out?
No, that's a great question. We asked them that at the very beginning, and they said, no, that will reduce your participation rate, and that will be posted, that you did not have a 95% participation rate. That all of the students get evaluated in that mix, get calculated into that mix. So if you have half your population that decide to opt out, then you'll have a 50% participation rate, and you will not have met your obligation. So, and the state has also said that they may affect some type of funding. So they are taking this very seriously. They are saying that they want 95% participation. I do believe in Torrington we will have 95% participation, but they are taking this seriously. As Cheryl was saying, it is part of that whole No Child Left Behind. We have to give a standardized test. That's what like Paul was saying, our education is based on, our instructional practice, if you will. We're looking at the data and then using that to move forward instructionally. Obviously not this year because it's a pilot, but in future years we will use it, and that's why you want to have the majority of your students, if not all of your students, participate in this.
So what type of test are you giving the 11 that opted out? Or are they not?
They will not have, if a student opts out, then they have other settings during the testing time. They did not participate in the practice, they were not part of the information gathering or anything like that, the training for the test. At least at the elementary level, schools had other areas that students went to other classrooms. They were working on other instructional activities during that time period. And the same thing happened in the middle school, and at the high school. Once again, they'll be placed in another classroom, not a study hall. They'll be working on other instruction.
So we're still,
But there would be no testing.
Correct, there would be no testing, and should they opt out next year, obviously they would have no scores during that time. But remember, in January, we won't have any individual scores anyway. So this year, and for some parents politically, they really feel like because of the inordinate amount of time it is taking away from instruction, they are making a statement, if you will, that this is not necessarily a fair thing to do to our children. And so that has been some of the issue, and their concern. So we're trying to help them understand what the process is, that it is a field test. This won't be the norm forever.
Were there families that opted out of CAP tests?
One or two, very, very few, and usually it was a medical reason. Child going in for surgery, anxiety issues, other things like that. Very, very rare. But you have to remember, we've done the CAP and the CMT for a very long time. And to tell you the truth, Ellen, I can't remember at the beginning how many folks wanted to opt out of that. Because we've gotten so used to giving it.
Back to the ineptitude of the people who roll this thing out. Is anyone taking responsibility for it not working, or are they just, oh, it's okay, there are glitches?
Yeah, very much so. It's okay, there are glitches.
So nobody's
and
taking
it's-
responsibility for this?
No, and you really very much get the party line when you call, and you've got to make this work.
Yes.
And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, that part's been frustrating.
Very frustrating.
And that's, when we went on the 24th, I have to tell you, many districts were very up in arms, assistant superintendents who were standing up saying, do you understand, we have to give this test in 3 weeks, and we have parents who are asking many, many questions, and we don't even know how to answer them because you haven't given the information to us. So some districts, I believe it's Fairfield, has totally opted out and will not take the test at all, just out of frustration. I know that on one call, we had Weston or Westport say they were having a hardship and they needed to have a waiver for their 11th grade students because it just wasn't going to work out for them this year. So, you know, I just think that everybody's kind of going through their paces at differently at a district level. Luckily, we have most of our students participating, and hopefully that will help create these questions, and we'll be able to move on from there.
It's interesting on some of the superintendent's calls that we've sat in on, that superintendents, I think the emergency one, there was a gentleman from, I think it was Guilford, a superintendent who point blank asked Commissioner Pryor, when are you going to have a news conference? We're doing due diligence out in the field and we're getting slaughtered. We need you to have a news conference and to talk about the opt-out. You're telling us to tell them, no, we need you to. And Commissioner Pryor said, no, that's not my place. So no, nobody's taking responsibility. The superintendents and the people in the trenches, yes.
Naturally.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just curious, I know you probably only estimate the time that the three of you have spent rolling this out. I'm just curious how much time the three, because we know the buildings are on shutdown trying to roll this out, so I'm curious if we have any estimate of time for this.
It's
too much.
been, yeah.
Too much.
It's been a lot of time, there's been a lot of prep work as far as getting people acclimated to what we knew was coming. And then it was, oh, hold on, we're switching train tracks, so, you know, everybody move all your luggage over here. And a lot of redoing that. I would say easily, probably
Couple hundred hours.
a few hundred hours. I would almost say 2 months worth of work, 2 months of work. But if you think about just the amount of time we spent from, I would say, end of January to beginning of the test rollout in March.
That was it.
There were some nights that I think the three of us, between being in the office and at home, 16-hour days, trying to comb through, read this, figure out, wait, what did this say? Did it just say something else? And, you know, just a lot of stuff, a lot of time spent from, I would say, January to March, too. Just in addition to trying to work with the teachers to make sure the teachers were not overly anxious and overly upset about this, because we wanted them to be calm so that presence would keep the kids calm. So there was, I would say probably 2 months worth of work. And cramming kind of work too.
Right, and it's not over. I mean, that's the hard part. Daily, we get calls. I mean, I have Gail Pagano from the state on speed dial, and you know, smarter, balanced people, and you know, they're sick of hearing from me. But oh well. You know? I mean, we still have to work this out, and so it's a daily occurrence that we are talking about problem solving, working with the sites, trying to make this function. So,
I mean, some of the issues. What's nice, if anything is nice about this, is the stuff we were seeing happening as far as problems early on. If they continued to be problems, at least they were able to be troubleshot in the rooms themselves, where we weren't running. I mean, the first week, I was running up, I mean, it's like running up and down the halls in the middle school, trying to go from room to room, do what we need to do. But now it's like they kind of know, oh, this is this kind of a problem, this is how we fix it, instead of, you know, on the horn going, oh my gosh, what do we do? So that's one of the nicer things, is people are sort of going, okay, well, we've seen this before. I'm glad nothing new is popping up and saying, you know, well, what is this now? But no, it hasn't been easy.
And as each grade level, like the middle school, so the 8th grade started first. So you'd have the 8th grade teachers, and they had, so that they could then mentor 7th grade teachers. And this week, it's so that you have, so you build in this capacity. But, you know, I really like to applaud the professionalism of the teachers who have done this with good grace and poise, because there were weeks where we'd go to training on Monday and hear that, well, this is gonna be the way it's done, so we'd make sure everybody knew. We'd go to training on Wednesday, and it was like, no, that's not, we're not doing that anymore, and the teachers have taken it all, you know, with good humor and with a lot of poise, because it could have been a whole lot worse if they were not such good sports about this.
Sounds like you guys have done a heck of a job. You really have.
Piece of cake.
Just as a comment, teachers are used to straightening out things that people above
I
them
know.
mess up.
I know, but John, they shouldn't have to.
No, they shouldn't,
They
but
should.
they always do.
Yeah.
Don't worry,
they
the
do.
test
They
will
rise.
change in a couple of years.
I know, absolutely, that's all right.
No, I just think it's important that people realize the amount of time that's being spent on this by everybody in the district.
And just add to that, teacher evaluation.
No, just, it would be interesting, without adding work to your plate, it would be interesting to know how many hours, and just an estimate that each grade level teacher has put in, plus what you guys have put in, and then the business office could put a number to that, and we could say, you know, rolling this test out was $2.5 million. Rolling this test out was 200,000, whatever it is.
And then multiply that
And then we
times the
need to know.
districts.
Plus the technology upgrade.
And the technology.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
It's an expensive test.
Before we make them stand up. Right, run.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.